Welcome to the PS Seasoning Culinary Center, where today, Mark and I are going to walk you through honey barbecue venison snack sticks.
Not only are we going to be making the honey barbecue snack stick today, this is one of our best sellers at PS Seasonings. We're also going to be adding some high temp cheddar cheese to it and some encapsulated citric acid. That's going to give us more of a tangy flavor, real common in the Midwest and throughout other parts of the US. And that'll just take it to a whole different level of flavor profile that we like to see here. We're going to be using a collagen casing, the mahogany that comes with packages that we sell like that, 2 per pack. They have about 10 pounds of meat per strand they will stuff. So you can also use a sheep casing if you choose to in this route, but today we're going to do a collagen casing.
Sounds great. Now today we're going to be making venison snack sticks, and one thing you see here is we obviously have 2 different types of meat because venison is very lean. So explain the process of your math and kind of calculations of fat to lean ratio here.
So this venison is super lean, as you can see. This is probably 99% lean, if not even closer to 100. So because of that, we had to add a little more pork. So we're going about 50, half venison, half pork, and we want about 50% lean pork. That's not so easy to find out in places, but pork butt trimmings gets you there. You can also ask your butcher for pork trimmings, and then that'll kind of get you. We're looking for about a 15% fat ratio in the finished product. So the next step that we'll do is we'll grind the venison and the pork together. We'll change plates. We're going through a 3/8 inch first, then through a 3/16. Then we'll add all the seasoning, the cheese, the kefir, the encapsulate, some water, and we'll start the stuffing process.
Mark, could you talk real quick just why fat is so important in snack sticks, in bratwurst, and any type of sausage?
Yeah, so obviously if you don't add the fat to the product, you're going to have a very dry, crumbly texture. Even 15% is probably on the higher end that I want it to be. I mean, some places go more than that, like 25% even. So 15% is by no means a great amount of fat. And this probably isn't going to be that ratio anyways, because it's real difficult to get the right amount of lean. So using this mixture that we have here will give us a really nice fat to lean ratio in the final grind, and we'll see that through the next processes that we do. What I'm going to do is kind of dump half and half at a time. So we'll take half the venison, dump that in there. Try to do it so you guys can see this here. And then we're going to dump half the pork in there too right away. So again, this is a total of 12.5 pounds that we're making. The batch makes 25, so we're just cutting everything in half to do the math that we need to. We're going through a 3/8 grind plate first. It just helps us kind of break down the protein a little bit. I don't want to go super fine. I want a good finished texture in the product. And this is grinding really nice here. So and I try to kind of mix it up as we go through, add some venison, add some pork at the same time. That is some lean venison here we're working with. So. And we're just letting the grinder do the work. You'll see I'm not forcing anything through here. That's the way you want to do that. Meat's nice and cold. We actually had it in the freezer before we went to start the grinding process, so it got nice and chilled. You want to keep that meat as cold as you can. So now we're going to put this into the grinder. Okay, so we're ready to do the second grind. We got the grinder head changed out to the smaller size, so now we're going to go ahead and grind it through the second time. There we go. And again, I'm not forcing the grinder at all, just letting it do the work. As you get to the smaller grind, you may have to push a little bit because sometimes it forms an air pocket in there. For a sausage or a snack stick, we want a little bit of a coarseness texture to it. I don't like going with a really fine plate for that. Just gives it some definition. You can kind of see the meat particles that you're trying to get. So this is a nice looking mix here. We're almost done. Now we'll go ahead and start the mixing process. Add the seasonings and everything else we need to add to it. So a little trick we're going to do here to get some of the meat is we're going to just dump some ice down the grinder just to force some of that meat out so we can get all the meat back for our 12.5 pounds. And that worked out really well. Very good.
All right, Mark, we're ready to mix. We've got our honey barbecue seasoning, some speed cure, some encapsulated citric acid, and our high temp cheese. Let's talk about encapsulated citric acid. What does this do for our product?
So encapsulated citric acid is a citric acid that will not break down until it reaches a certain temperature. The temperature is about 132 degrees internal of the snack sticks when it's going through the smoking process. It'll then release its citric into the meat, and it'll provide that tang flavor that you would like. It also can lower the pH, and it's one of the ways that you would make product shelf stable. We're not adding enough to do that. That is not our intention here. To do that, you have to have equipment and have things certified. So we're just looking for a little extra tang flavor in the product here. So,
And Speed Cure.
Speed Cure is the normal, people know it as pink cure, Prague powder #1. But it's a quick cure designed to cure the meat right away, get ready for the stuffing process. We're gonna stuff this today, let it sit, and we'll smoke it tomorrow. We're doing that just because I feel it lets the flavors marry a little better, lets the cure work really well. I'm not saying you can't do it right after, you can. My preference is to let it sit a night over to just get those flavors developed a little bit more in cure color.
And then we have our honey barbecue seasoning.
Seasoning, yeah, doesn't it look like an awful lot for
looks
this
like a lot.
12.5 pounds of meat? So this is one of our top selling seasonings. It's a phenomenal honey flavor with barbecue. To get both of those flavors to stand out, we really had to use a lot of flavor to do that. So wait till you try it, you're gonna love it. We're gonna add some cheddar cheese to it today. We're gonna start with some of the water first. I'm gonna dump some of this in here.
And how much water are we going for today?
This is 1 pound. I'm going to use 1 pound to 12.5 pounds of meat. With snack sticks, we need to use a little bit more. It gets a little tough to stuff through the stuffer otherwise if the meat isn't got enough moisture in it.
Got it.
That's a good way to do that. Chef, I'm going to have you stir that in there with a spoon if you could. While he does that, I'm going to add the honey barbecue seasoning here. And as you can see, it's a lot of stuff. I'm also going to add the encapsulated citric acid. Just sprinkle it in there. And now the reason why I had Chef mix the Speed Cure into the water, it just gives me a little better incorporation of it throughout the product. So that is ready to roll. I'm not going to add the cheese just yet. I want to get some of this mixed up first. So you want to start mixing a little slow. You got a lot of seasoning in here. Otherwise it'll bounce all around on you and fall out of the bowl.
And then back up 1 second. How much cure did we use here?
So normally you use 1 ounce of Speed Cure to 25 pounds of meat.
Okay.
So we used a ½ ounce, which was what, 2 tablespoons or 2 teaspoons?
It was about 2.5 teaspoons.
2.5 teaspoons, okay, perfect. So now we're gonna have Chef dump the cheese in here.
Sounds good.
And we're adding 1 pound today to 12.5 pounds, which 2 pounds to 25. That's a good place to start. You could add more or less depending upon your preference.
In you go, cheese.
All right, so now we continue the mixing process here. Your hands will get cold during this. That's part of the fun. So this is an important step. You want to get this really mixed up good. This is going to take a couple minutes to do. And I just keep working from the bottom to the top, pushing down and squeezing at the same time while we're doing that.
So we are looking for a level of protein extraction here, right?
Correct. And you can see how the texture of this meat block is changing.
It already changed.
It's no longer, you can see the lean coming through.
Oh, you can start to smell those flavors as
Yep, the honey barbecue is
moisture
really,
gets in the air.
yep. So the honey, there's honey crystals in here that kind of start to melt as you do this, and it's going to be a really fun product to make. Starting to see how sticky it's getting. The bowl picks up like that from pushing the meat around.
I just want to remind everybody, everything that we're using today is available at psseasoning.com, down to the casings, the encapsulated citric acid. The cure and the seasoning come together when you purchase the honey barbecue seasoning. And then we also do have high temp cheeses available.
So we're starting to get this good.
How are your hands feel?
Cold. Very cold.
Yeah.
But that's what we want. We want this meat to stay cold. It's very important that we don't let it get warm. We want to keep it, otherwise it'll start to grease out on us.
And you'll start losing that fat content, which you really want to keep in there. Are snack sticks something where you might use a binder flour or some other sort of?
I wouldn't recommend it. It's not needed. This is a semi-dry product, so you don't want to add something to retain moisture.
Oh, look at that tackiness. That's the protein extraction.
That's what we want to see. So
Yep.
this is ready to go in the stuffer.
So semi-dry product meaning what compared to other sausages?
So sausage could be a wetter product, could be a semi-dry, and most summer sausages in the Midwest. Salami is obviously super dry product. This is kind of in between that and as a bologna type product or something like that. So it's a little more of a drier product.
All right, we've got our stuffer set up. We're gonna fill it, and then we're gonna stuff these collagen casings.
Correct. We're going to be using, as we talked earlier, our 21 millimeter mahogany collagen casing. Our horn is not going to be exactly small enough for the casing to fit on hole, so we'll just have to kind of thread it on there. It's actually pretty simple to do. Again, the smaller the horn that you do use, the harder this is going to be to stuff because it takes a lot of pressure to crank that out. So we're using a little bit larger horn for the job here. So what we're going to do is take out our stuffer. We're going to throw some meat in there. You want to try to use a small amount as you can put in there at first. You want to push as much air out of there as you can. You keep kind of adding those small amounts. The less air we get in there, the better off we are with the stuffing process.
And if we get air in there, what's going to happen?
So we get some air in there, it'll probably cause a little air pocket, or it will cause an air pocket in the casing while we're stuffing. That's not the end of the world. We'll work around that, but this just kind of ensures us a little more, less of that to happen. Okay, so we have the meat in the stuffer. Stuffer's back on our mechanism here. We're going to turn down the crank to get it started. I want to bring just enough meat out so it comes out of the horn before I put my casing on.
You'll be able to feel immediately once you make contact with the meat there.
So I'm just going to back off just a little bit so it stops coming out, which sometimes takes more than you think. There we go. So as we talked before, the casing won't fit on here as a whole. So we got to just open it up. So you can see we got that started, and as we talked about, this is something that you may have to work with at home with stuff like this if the horn's too big. And you're gonna, like I said, you're gonna be wanting a larger size horn than exactly a smaller size horn. It's gonna make the stuffing much easier to do. So we'll just get as much on there as we can, and then we'll just cut it or pinch it off with our fingers and go ahead and stuff what we got. So then we're gonna pull out a little bit of casing, about that much. And we're going to start the stuffing process. So I'm keeping pressure on the casing with the horn here. And you want to keep that size casing coming out of there.
Consistency is key.
Right. Just slow and steady pressure on the stuffer. You can overstuff it. They will break. They'll actually split right open. So as long as it looks nice and smooth like this is, you're doing a very good job of filling it to the capacity recommended.
So collagen casings versus natural sheep casings, things like that, what are we talking about with casings for snack sticks?
So today we're using a collagen casing. As we talked earlier, this is an all beef product. We could be using a sheep casing, a natural sheep casing to do this as well. This is actually a little more uniform. You'll see how it stuffs all the nice same size, consistent lengthening. If you go to the sheep casing, it takes a little more preparation. You got to soak it in water, let it sit in warm water for a little bit. I have no preference to which one you prefer to use. A lot of people love the sheep. It takes in a little more smoke flavor, maybe a little more tender bite at the end, but they both will get good snap through the smokehouse process, and we'll get a chance to look at that tomorrow.
So we're finishing up the coiling of our snack sticks here, and then they're going to go in the fridge overnight. That's going to allow those flavors to marry and really develop overnight. It's going to allow our cure to do its work on the meat and avoid any food safety issues and give us that nice coloration we're looking for in the smoke.
Right.
And then tomorrow we get to smoke these and finally enjoy some snack sticks, right?
I'm looking forward to that. So we will show you the smoke program, how we do that. And that'll be about a 4-hour cycle, and then we'll be eating some delicious snack sticks. So what we did here was we preheated the smokehouse to 120 degrees. After that was done, we put our stuffed product in the house. We let it dry for about a half hour. At that point, we raised temperature up to 130 degrees. We closed the dampers down to about 75% on the house that we used. And then we smoked at 130 degrees for 1 hour. Then we raised the temperature to 150 degrees. We kept smoking for about another hour. After that, we took out the sawdust pan. We raised the temperature of the house to 170 degrees. And we cooked to a final internal temperature of 155 degrees. So instead of giving these snack sticks a bath, we just let these cool off at room temperature. So they room temperature about a half hour, and then we come up and put them in the refrigerator.
And that ice bath versus hanging to cool down naturally is just a personal preference, right?
Correct. You can use the ice bath right away if you'd like. I wanted these to kind of just naturally cool down, and they turned out very well that way.
They're awesome.
So Chef, here we have our finished product of our venison honey barbecue sticks with cheddar cheese. I would say they look delicious.
They smell great.
We've cut them up, let them sit in the refrigerator overnight, and now for the fun part, part we all enjoy the most is to taste this stuff and see what we got.
All right. This one looks good. The snap is great.
Beautiful snap. Great texture. Good honey barbecue flavor. The cheddar cheese is there. And what really knocked us out of the ballpark is the addition of the encapsulated citric acid. You got that little tang at the end.
Absolutely.
And I would definitely suggest making these at home just the way we did here.
They're amazing. They're hands down the best snack sticks I've ever eaten.
They turned out really well.
You really get the venison, even though we did a 50-50 with the pork, the venison flavor still very much comes through. And the addition of the smoke it plays really well. Again, all the products we use to make these snack sticks are available at psseasoning.com. For this recipe and other sausage tutorials, check out our YouTube channel and be sure to subscribe. Till next time, I'm Chef Jed.
Master Meat Crafter Mark Haney.
Thanks for watching.